He's leaving for
I'm still
Hawaii.
at 3:33. It's all good.
Good.
Hey team, welcome to Benchmarked with Coach Mess and Coach LaRock. We have with us for this episode a leader whose journey is as rich as it gets. I absolutely love this coach's story and path to the major leagues. After playing and coaching his way through the ranks for over 30 years now, I believe, and developing his craft, he joined the Atlanta Braves coaching staff as their assistant hitting coach in 2021 and was part of their World Series championship run. What a start. What an introduction. What a rookie season in the major leagues. This year, not only are the Braves well in the hunt for another World Series title, fingers crossed, their coach, but Coach Bobby Magallanes was also part of this year's All-Star coaching staff in LA. He is not just a talented coach, he's also a smart one. He has a master's degree in performance psychology and, like us, has a passion for coaching, leadership, and mental performance. Most importantly, I know, Coach, that you're a big family guy. I could tell by your Instagram post. Family's very important to you, so that's fantastic. Coach Mags, it is an honor to have you with us.
Thanks. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
And I know you're on the road right now, so this is we've been trying to connect for months, trying to get you on the show, and we appreciate you making time for us. We know you're on the road with the Braves, and you're traveling around on the East Coast here, and you guys are in the stretch, so it's awesome. And as I was prepping for the show, here's a little known fact, but you almost played your pro ball up here in Canada. You were drafted by the Expos, were you not?
Out of high school, yeah, the old Expos, yeah. I was drafted out of high school by Montreal Expos, yes.
That's amazing. I saw that on your baseball portfolio. I was like, that is an amazing just piece of information. And I know you selected the college route and then were selected again by the Seattle Mariners, right? And that's
Right.
and that was kind of the start of your professional baseball career, which is outstanding. But Coach, I love your background. Like the idea that you spent a lot of time in coach. You've coached a lot in the minor leagues, and you went up with the Braves. But to me, it's the background, and I was excited to talk to you. And I know JG and I have been talking about it. Like, here's a person who's a true mental performance coach, and I think you're in line. And baseball is a huge sport for mental performance, and you're working with hitters, which is such a mental game. How is it that you apply your knowledge, your experience, and your passion for mental performance to the hitters at the highest possible level of the game? Like, it's one thing for JG and I when we're dealing with high school kids. You're dealing with athletes who are there. How do you help them with the mental game?
Well, yeah, I mean that's important. That it all starts there. The mental game is, to me, probably the most important part of hitting. It's being really good in your mind first. And but I do whatever I can. Be honest with you, it's like I'm there as a resource for these players. If they want it, if they want to, talk more about the mental part. Again, they're here at the highest level in our sport. These guys are very talented, but man, I see that just in my experience up here is those who are consistently successful, not just ones who have a good season and a couple of bad ones, but the ones that stay consistent are very mentally strong. So I'm there helping them any way I can. To be honest with you, I have those conversations with them in the cage or even off the field, and while we eat, sit down and eat. It's just little conversations just to get to know them and get to see how they're thinking, how they're doing.
At the beginning of the season, do you think there's a shift between you guys are talking so much technical and now you're talking more mental, or is it just always kind of been a flow of things? I'm assuming because it's just getting later in the season, some of the technical might be, they're a little gassed right now, those types of things. But has the mental always been a piece and it's becoming more important in the stretch, or where do you find?
Yeah, well, when you talk about the mental, we give them a plan for a game plan for that day against that starting pitcher, against their relievers in the bullpen. So we're always strategizing and giving them plans. And also, in terms of the technical part of it, that's every day. You got to stay on top of your swing because it can go south quickly, and then that's when they get lost a little bit. Okay, what's going on? but mainly it's just calming them down and getting their focus back on not so much internal but external focus when they're hitting and when they're in the game, basically. But the technical part of it is important. It all goes hand in hand. To me, it's not one or the other. Some people think it's all mental, and it's not. You got to have the technical part of it. It all goes hand in hand. To me, it's you got to be well here. You have to be. It's no question, because it starts there. Because the mind is the one it relays the message. The brain relays all the neurons of the messages to the muscles, to the body parts, for what it needs to do to hit. But you gotta be strong here and really focused and really not be so tense up here.
Coach, go ahead, JG.
Oh, sorry. Were you always that deep into that part of the game, or is it something that evolved in you? And sometimes, you may wish, like, man, I wish I would have picked this up as a player a long time ago.
Oh, absolutely. That's what I was really hard on myself. I was a player. I was very good defensively. I felt like that was my strong suit. Defensively, I just felt so comfortable defensively. But that confidence didn't translate into the batter's box. I just overthought it in the batter's box, and I would overanalyze it. If I had a bad game, I was there the next day early because I knew there was something wrong with my swing. And I just work, and it just got to a point where it just overthought it. And I struggled with that. And I would get frustrated with myself and going, man, why can't I let this stuff go? It's like, I just feel like I'm just too tight. So that's what intrigued me to study performance psychology. And when the opportunity came to get a degree in it, and this was later in life, I was all in. It was tough. It wasn't easy to do it. Getting a degree at the age in my 50s, where I'm raising a family, I'm a husband, I get a full-time job and full-time student. It was pretty tough, but I thank God I did it. It was a sacrifice because I learned a lot, and I wish, man, to answer your question, I go, man, I wish I would knew this back then. I would have. Who knows? It might have been a different story in my career. I don't know, but. It definitely, man, it just helps. And not only just in baseball. I mean, performance psychology, it's the study of peak performers. It's the study of the best, not only athletes, but it can be lawyers, doctors, teachers, businessmen. It's just a study of the best that they are at their field.
It must have been interesting for you to be going through that while working in the professional ranks, because you had a great sample size to kind of apply what you were learning at that time, right? Wherever you were during your coursework for that. Because to me, thinking these guys, you were coaching, I think you were in I can't remember where you were at the time when you were taking your degree, but you would have had these athletes that are trying to make their way to the big leagues, and you would have had the opportunity to really apply what you were learning to assist them. To me, which is fantastic, because it's one thing to work with people that are already there, but to have those athletes that are hungry to try to reach that, now you're really giving them an extra push. Did you find that the athletes that you were working with now, are they open to what you're teaching them with the performance psychology stuff?
You know what? That's another thing too. Yeah, to answer that question, not all of them are open. I mean, it's not all wanted to apply certain things because it takes work to be strong mentally. To me, it's like working out, like going to the gym. It's like, if you go once every month or once a week, it's not really going to help. You got to do the work, and you got to stay on top of your mental game, just the way you stay on top of your swing. You stay on top of your baseball game. You got to stay on top of your mental game, and not all do that. There'll be good conversation, but it's like, hey, we got to put this in. Okay, what are you going to do here? Give them whatever tools mentally to practice. And like I said, not all really ask for that. Not all are like, okay, yeah, that's great. Help me. Not all, but I tell you what, the very few who do, there's big time results in their game, and not only just hitters but pitchers as well. It's big time results when they actually, okay, I'm going to actually do it. And it's not just talking about something. It's like, hey, there's certain skills involved. There's certain practices you got to do to get better mentally.
I'm gonna guess here, Bobby. Like the players probably only come see you when something's going sour, not when things are going good. Probably same thing with hitting when they're going well, unless they need an ego stroke. But typically, you're just getting them when they're starting to dip a little bit. I'm making an assumption.
Well, I'm with them every day. I'm with the hitters, so it's like I'm seeing them in their good and bad moments. But I mean, there's other hitters that I've worked with, more younger hitters outside our organization that in the off season, their parents come and task me, hey man, can you help with my kid? And now that they know that I got a degree in mental performance, and I give mental performance coaching as well. I'll give some of these kids information like, okay, let's start, let's do this. I give them homework, I give them things to do, and it helps. I mean, the results are there. It really helps out a lot. That's the thing, is like, hey man, if you work on your mental game, it's game changing, because they're going to see themselves like calmer. They're going to see themselves, man, like, okay, these thoughts now I can take them captive and be mindful of these negative thoughts or this anxiety that I never had before. I mean, that I didn't know how to handle. Now I'm learning how to handle, because we don't. I was there. I didn't know how to handle that. Like, where's my escape route? What do I do? Because those thoughts just kept racing in my mind, and it's not so much worry, because I worry too. It's just out thinking. It's like, okay, because we're always thinking. It's like, how do we think? It's really learning how to think, because we're always thinking. So yeah, it takes. I mean, those guys are there, and I'm with them all the time, and I'm there to whatever they want to share. I'm listening to their hearts. Like, okay, I'm here if you need me for anything. So I'm there from. But yeah, I'm with them all the time. So yeah, we get to share all those things.
Now, I know you have kids. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. You have 4 kids.
I got 3.
3 kids, and they range in age. And I know you have a son who's a ball player as well, correct? And do you find that there's an age that you can apply the mental performance strategies? Is there an age where you're like too young, not old enough yet to accept this? Do you find that there's a starting point? And the reason I'm asking this question from you, Coach, is we have a lot of parents that listen to our show, and we have a lot of young athletes that listen to this show. And part of our goal is, and JG and I, is we teach this stuff to our young athletes in hopes that they're going to pick it up. Do you find that there's an age where people are like, no, this is not something I'm worth my kid. I just want to develop skill and talent.
Well, to me, I'm not going to put a certain age on it. To me, it's where the parent feels that this kid needs it. But it's when, I mean, little leaguers. I have my youngest is 12. He just got done playing his last year of Little League, and I mean, you can help those kids out at the age of 12, 11. You can help those kids at that age. It's because when they hear him talk, they get so frustrated. It's like just calming them down. Okay, but hey, whatever skills you kind of work with them. My 16-year-old, he's going to be a junior, actually starting his high school tomorrow, junior year, his junior year of high school tomorrow. He's working with Zach Sorensen, as a matter of fact. Zach's been working with them. And it's funny, you're probably asking, why is he working with you since you also do this? It's because it's so tough to coach up your own kid. It really is. It's hard. So it's like, yeah, I sent him to Zach, and Zach's phenomenal, and he's done a great job with him. And we have seen results. My wife and I say, okay, we see results in him, and he loved it, because every time he has a session with Zach, it's like, oh yeah, Dad, we talked about this, and okay, what are you gonna do? Yeah, he has me doing this. All of a sudden, a couple of days later, hey, what did you do? Oh yeah, I'm doing the homework. I'm doing this, and like, I can see that it helped. It does. It's proven. I highly recommend people work on it. It's like, it's well worth it, because not only it's not just for a sport, it's going to help you in your everyday life, because even as adults, man, we're not perfect. As adults, we stress about things. As adults, we have, certain things that we're either, it can be addiction, it can be it can be something that, man, I just have these things where I don't know how to handle this pressure. And it helps. It's to perform. That's what we're trying to help you, every person perform.
Yeah, you don't need to explain to Mark and I about coaching your own kids, how that it sometimes works, but it's just sometimes having somebody else, not just somebody else you trust in that role is a game changer. Because sometimes you could say the same thing Zach's saying, but it's not coming out of it's coming out of Zach's mouth, so it's the praise, and out of your mouth, you're just dad.
So, you're so right. It's all right.
There'll come a time, and then I'm sure stuff that you're doing with the Atlanta Braves, Zach's doing with your son, and your son's like, oh yeah, I've heard my dad talk about this before. My dad's kind of smart guy. So can you, without using names at all, because we try to be as specific as possible. I know we're speaking general terms right now in terms of sports performance and psychology and mental performance. Can you give us a relevant example of something that you've applied with one of the major league hitters that you've seen a change in that person over the course of this season or even last season? Like, give us a specific that you've done. Like, I know we'll talk about, like, JG, we talk about grabbing the barrel of the bat because you're coming in and you're big, you're strong. What's something that you like to share with some of your hitters?
Well, I've said it. I ask a question. Okay, give me your 3 keys to keep it simple. Whenever I see that starting to spin on them, okay, they come in the cage, this and that, and I because I have a relation with them, so I know them pretty well. Give me your 3 keys to keep it simple. What are your 3 keys? And everyone's got different ones. And I go, okay, so if these are your 3 keys to keep it simple, then let's focus on that. Because it can get to where that, okay, it's my hands, it's my hip, it's my feet, it's, I gotta get my shoulder square, and it's so thing on my contact point. They start thinking so much about internal body parts that it doesn't come out, the swing doesn't come out smooth anymore. Everything's tense. So it's like, okay, what's the keys to keep it simple? Oh, well, I just like to see the ball and hit it. I mean, it can be a key for them. I don't know. Everyone's different. So, okay, so now I tell, okay, let's focus on that today. Just keep it simple, just to get their minds off of internal focus and more external focus while they're hitting. So those are examples. Another example is that a thing that I learned a lot in performance psychology was motor skill learning. That's a thing that was a game changer for me as a coach, because it's how we learn how to transfer that skill into a game. That's the key. Okay, great practice players. There's a bunch of them who are great practice players. And they do what you tell them, like they pick things up, but it doesn't transfer to the game. Why? And that's where we're not only performance psychology, but that's where motor skill learning comes in, because you want to transfer that skill into the game. And again, I can elaborate more on that, because to me, that's a game changer in terms of having in-game results.
I played junior college and with a catcher. I was a catcher. JG was a catcher as well. And my platoon mate was unbelievable in the preseason. He was unbelievable in batting practice, to the point where I was like, I might never see the game. And he'd be a guy that'd be hitting him like 400 feet in batting practice. And then as soon as the game came in, it'd be 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts and like a pop-up or something like that. And it was incredible. And I mean, again, I was 18, 19 at the time, so I didn't really think about like what's going on with this guy. And he could not play in the game. He couldn't play. He couldn't hit the ball. It was incredible to see. So, I always consider that, like, what happened. And we call them the 4 o'clock hitters, right? They show up and they can hit at 4 o'clock, and 7 o'clock shows up and they disappear. What is it that you think that happens? What's the transition from that mental state to the 7 p.m. when it's on ESPN in front of a national audience, or the World Series, and you got to perform? What's that mental state?
Well, you got to have a routine. So to me, I'm big on routines. And okay, what's your routine? Because there's some hitters that are great hitters that really don't take batting practice. They just hit in the cage before the game, and they go into the game and they hit. It's like, man. Then you got those who are consistently working, preparing. I mean, working on their craft taking batting practice every day, watching video of the opposing pitcher, having a game plan, and they're not succeeding like the other guys. Okay, so that's the thing. It's like, that's why it's not one or the other, guys. It's okay, what makes a great player great? It's like, we can all say, oh, you got practice. Yeah, but this guy doesn't practice that much, and this guy's gonna be a Hall of Famer. But this guy who practices every day is hitting 220 for a career. It's like, so what is it? What's happening here? You know, they both have the same amount of skill, but why is one guy has success and one doesn't? And to me, it's a lot of it's the mental part. They're mentally strong. The other guys are out thinking. But to me, a thing that I believe, the way you transfer that skill into a game, there's a thing called, in motor skill learning, there's a thing called random practice and block practice. And let me explain this to you guys. Block practice is when you do a repetition over and over of the same thing. So let me explain. Let's say I put the tee, and I put a ball on the tee, and I tell my hitter, okay, I want you to hit 20 line drives to the end back of the cage. And I'm telling you, they might hit 10 out of 20, 15 out of 20 line drives. I mean, really good. And great. And all of a sudden I just flip them balls. Hey, I want you to hit these. I'm going to flip you these balls, and I want you to hit line drives off the L screen. And they take 10 in a row. Awesome. But in the game, they strike out. They don't make contact. They don't do well. But yet in practice, they're hitting the line drives. Block practice is when you just do one thing and repeat it over and over. Okay. Random is when you do one thing in different shapes, different sizes, in different patterns. So in this case, it's like, okay, let's say I do off a tee. Okay, I put the ball on the tee. He takes one swing. Then I change it. I get the tee and I put it away and down. He hits it. Oh, I missed it. Let me hit it again. No. Go to the next one. Now I bring it up and in. He hits it, pops up. Oh, let me hit one more. No, let me go down away again. It's random. And then when I throw batting practice to him and I'm changing speeds on him, I'm locations. Random is what prepares you for the game, because the game is random. You don't see the same pitch in the same location twice in a row in a game. So the random practice is proven. It's evidence-based research is proven. It's the best transfer of skill into a game, that type of practice. And you want practice to be difficult because you want the game to be easy. Baseball is the only sport that doesn't get practice game speed, because we would blow out our pitchers. So what happens is, if you guys have noticed now lately, the machines are coming into play more. There's a lot more machine batting practice. Even the big leagues, you got big league teams using the machine as batting practice, not BP pitchers, because they're trying to, hey, who are we facing today? Oh, this guy throws 95 plus with the slider. Okay, let's put on really fast, and the guys are fouling stuff off. Hey, this is too difficult. Well, yeah, we're preparing you for that pitcher. Now let's put the slider. Now teams are starting to get it. Now they're starting to prepare it. Not all teams are doing it. I'm not saying that every single team is doing it, but it's proven fact that type of practice, the randomness, is the best transfer skill into a game.
I found a lot of that stuff with, I think his name's Rob Gray. He does a lot of research on that stuff, talking about it. But you're saying not many teams are doing it. Do you find that's just a personal thing, and hopefully no one's putting you over the coals for this one, but just baseball is such a traditional sport that people are having a hard time adjusting, just because they know it's probably right for them. Like, no, we've done it like this for 100 years. We're going to keep doing it for another 100 years.
Yeah. Again, it's you have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. There's a book by Carol Dweck called Mindset. She was a professor of psychology at Stanford University, and I got to read one of her books, and it's great. And to me, it's, you either have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. A person with a fixed mindset says, oh, this is the way we've always done it. I'll never get better because I don't have the talent. A growth mindset is someone that says, if I practice and I learn, I can get better. And it's just the mindset. It's like, okay, I mean, again, you can have old school people. When they talk about old school, it's like just fixed on their ways. It's like, this guy will never change. He's just fixed on his ways. They said, wow, this is the way I did it. I hit 300 this way when I played in the big leagues, and this way, and not everyone's the same. It's like, man, you were good, but you know what? These guys don't have the talent that you had. It's like, how are we going to prepare? And plus, when we played back in the day, I played in the 90s. We're not facing the pitching that's today. the average fastball is 94 miles an hour, or 95, I think. 94.7, I think it's the last I saw. So it's 95 miles an hour is the 94, 95 miles an hour is the average fastball. You know, we faced DeGrom. Yeah, we faced DeGrom yesterday, and he was at 100. He averaged 99.8, I think, on his fastball. He threw on how many pitches over 100, and his slider was at 95, 96 miles an hour. His slider, when the average fastball was 94, 95, his slider was higher. So it's like, it was crazy. So that's what we're facing. And so it's not like how are we going to get better? You know, how are we going to learn? We got to keep evolving, because if we just imagine if no one tried to, if there was no scientific research, if we just got stuck on our own ways, humanity, we would still be living in the dark age. We would still be riding horses instead of cars. There wouldn't be airplanes. We wouldn't be having the Zoom meeting, because a fixed mindset, we just stay stuck on our old ways. We got to keep evolving. How are we going to get better? How are we going to beat the competition? And you can't have a mindset of a fix, like, what is the way I've always done it, and have the old way school of thinking.
Obviously, pitchers have evolved, obviously, right? Because the average fastball probably was low 90s. I bet you 5-6 years ago. I'm just throwing those numbers out there, and they've obviously evolved with the way they do things. So obviously, hitters got to be able to make the adjustment, do that themselves also.
I was watching the other day. I just caught the tail end of the Blue Jays. I think they were playing Tampa, and Kikuchi was on the mound, and they were just talking about now the velocity of lefties are up too. Like they're seeing lefties throwing 100, which is, I mean, there's been the odd lefty that used to bring such velocity. Now we're seeing, they say across the board, you're getting high velocity off the left side of the mound as well, which is incredible. So these players are having to make major adjustments. And I think one of the things that JG and I coach a lot with our younger kids as well is, yeah, there's the technical part of it, but it's dealing with the adversity. And I know that you said this earlier, Coach, which was really good. This is outside of baseball. So we're trying to apply our mental performance tips to people. Say like, hey, you're down 0-2 in a game on a terrific pitcher, so you have to have that mental mindset that to be able to come back and bring yourself back into competition within that at bat. But the outside the stadium, outside the lines type of stuff is really important. And we had a show with a friend of ours, China McCartney, who's out west, works for Jaeger Sports, and does a lot of work with that type of stuff. So I think it's important because they can apply this to their lives if they're going through something at home as well, right? And I'm sure as a coach, like you said, you spend a lot of time with these hitters. I'm sure they come into the cage sometimes and things aren't necessarily great at home, or they're on the road. They might be missing their families. I know you have some young guys on the Braves that are probably their first time doing so much traveling. And there's a lot of stuff that comes into being a professional athlete that the average person might not understand, right?
Well, first of all, I've said this many times. I don't coach baseball players. I coach people. So I don't look at him as a baseball player. When I go in there, this guy is a husband. This guy is a father. Those who are married and have kids. This guy is a brother. This guy's a son. I mean, this is how I look at him. He's a human being. And we all have troubles. We all have something going on in our lives. So to have those conversations is important. To coach the heart is important. Hey, how you doing? How you feeling today? How's your family? Everything good back home? You know, you got to get to them, because those all that stuff can affect, like you said, the performance. And we all need help. That's the thing. We all need help. We weren't created to live life by ourselves. We weren't. We were created to live life in community, because we need one another. You know, you've heard the saying, you know, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. It's a Bible verse. And it's so true. We need one another. And so that's how I look at it. And not all of them open up, you know, they don't, or because a lot of times, especially as men, we can be very prideful. We can be like, oh, I can do this on my own, because I don't want to show weakness. And to me, it's like, man, that's not it. It's like, not until you get a little vulnerable, not until you open up a little bit, that's when the healing comes. That's when you can get help. Is just let the pride down. Say, you know what, man, I need help with this. You know, how do you do this? How do I get better mentally? Emotionally? You know, how do I? Because another thing is controlling emotions. You know, that's hard. A lot of these guys, that's the battle. how do I control these emotions? Because the emotions can hinder my performance. So there is help. I mean, to me, it's practice. You got to practice it. Some things we don't do. But yeah, it's, to me, it's letting the pride down and get help. It's okay. Open up, man. Do this. It's okay. We all fall short. We all need help. We all are going through this. And if you have those conversations with guys and they go, man, you go through that too. When you realize that the greatest go through mental things, like, hey, man, I don't have it all together either. Like, wow, you really, you work on that? You work on your mental game? You have those fears? Yeah. You have those anxieties? Oh yeah, I battle that all the time. You'd be shocked. But they open up and they admit it and like, okay, I'm seeking help. Oh yeah, I'm working with the mental guy. I'm working with the mental coach. And it's, before that was like, oh no, you're crazy. Now it's like part of like, no, everyone's got one. It's like a lot of players have their own mental performance coach, which I highly recommend. So yeah, it's just being vulnerable and being open to help.
You've mentioned this a few times throughout the show, and it's one of the tools I'm assuming also, but you talked about internal focus and external focus. So for some of our listeners, can you give an example in life, sport, whatever you want to choose here? Can you give us some examples of some internal focus, compared to external?
Okay, so internal focus is the body parts. So it can be like, I'm going to use it as in baseball. So when a guy's in the game, thinking about his hands, thinking about his feet, thinking about, I got to get my hands higher, lower, or I got to get in a position to hit, whatever it is, anything that has to do with internal, which is the body, that's internal focus. External focus is the baseball. That's outside the body. External focus is, visualizing me hitting a line drive up the middle. That's external focus. So I try to do external focus stuff just because you don't want to think internally, because that's when you're going to be tight. External is when now your body can make moves naturally because it's not thinking about the body. I have a saying, don't let the mind tell the body what to do, just let it go. Because then all of a sudden it becomes robotic and it becomes tight. It doesn't. Now, internal focus in the batting cage, there's times you need it, just because if you're working on a certain move, like, hey, you know what, I was off the last couple of days. Okay, let's see what it is. Okay, we saw video. Yeah, you know what, I'm seeing that you're opening up. So now we're going to work on you staying a little bit more close or more square to the plate. We're going to work on that in the batting cage. So I do need internal focus here because we're trying to work on that movement. But after we get it, okay, now game on. Now I want you to just focus on baseball and let this thing play out. So that's an example of internal versus external focus.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I want to kind of ask you, Coach, you were a player before a coach, and JG and I talk about this all the time. We both had that transition phase from being collegiate athletes to becoming coaches. Some people struggle with that. Some people make that transition very easy. How did you find that transition going from being a player to a coach? And I'm going to add to that question is, if you could go back in time to give yourself advice during that transition, what would you say to yourself?
Well, yeah, it's a different game. It's being a player and being a coach is two different professions. And if I can go back, because I look back now, it was over 20 years ago when I first started coaching. I made a transition from a player to a coach. I've come a long ways. Like I said about some coaches are stuck on their ways. At the beginning, I was like that. I was like, okay, I just played, so I know what I'm talking about. And man, I'll tell you this right now. That first year of coaching, I felt at the end of that season, I remember going home and talking to my wife. I feel like I don't know anything about baseball because I learned so much, Coach. I'm going, oh my gosh. I learned so much. I thought I knew because I played 12 years professionally. And all of a sudden now I'm like, it's a different game. Coaching is different than playing. And I'm thinking, before I didn't have to think about it. Now I had to think about oh my God, I just did it. Now I have to actually research it and teach. And I got to give an answer of the why. I got to answer the why. Okay, why do I need to have my hands this way? Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to have that approach? What? Like, I don't know. I just did it. Yeah. So because I said so, because I said so.
Yeah.
But it's like now it's like, wait a minute, man. And I came a long ways because as I kept coaching, as the years went by, I ended up realizing just how much I didn't know. And I can admit that because a lot of us that play think we know it all. Oh, I played. Well, I know it's because this. It's like, you know what, man, we don't know it all. And we got to keep learning. I'm a big believer that leaders are learners. And you got to learn, you got to keep learning. That's how we grow. So with me, it evolving, I knew I had to get educated. So I start off with getting a bachelor's degree first, as I was coaching, and I got it in management, which is leadership. I got a bachelor's in that, which helped me out because I managed the minor leagues for 9 years. So that helped me out in terms of leadership and running a team. And then I really had an opportunity, and it was in my heart to get a degree in master in performance psychology. And I'm going, man, I want to keep learning and keep educating myself. And that to me, that was a game changer for me in my coaching, was getting that master's in performance psychology, because I learned a lot, not only about the mental game, but the as I said earlier, the motor skill learning, which is huge in sports. Motor skill learning is huge. And I'm like, now it's like, this is now the technical part and the science behind how to transfer skills into a game.
It sounds like you really have a good grasp of your why. And I think we've talked to a lot of outstanding leaders on this team, or on this podcast, and we've talked to a lot of outstanding athletes on this podcast. And all the top performers that we've had on our show all have a very good grasp of their why. And it seems no different for you. Can you elaborate? Like, if I were to ask you, Coach Bobby, what is your why?
My why is my purpose of what I'm here. God has me on earth to do. Number one, I'm a God-fearing man. So that's my purpose. I'm here to impact people. I'm here to make an impact in the lives of God, of the people that God puts in my life. So it can be a big leaguer, it can be a little leaguer, it can be a parent, it can be a coach, it can be a colleague. It doesn't matter. That's my purpose, is that. And regardless of where I'm at, it can be in the big leagues, minor leagues, it doesn't matter. I want to impact people. I want to help them out to be better in whatever area in their life. That's where I show up, and I go with the passion of that. Okay, how can I help this guy today? Not only in their hitting, but maybe, he's going through a tough time mentally. Okay, what can I speak to him with? How can I get through him to calm him down? How can I help him out? And that's my why. That's why I do it. Why do I coach? Because I love to teach. Number one, I have a passion for teaching, and coaching. I have a passion for that because I like to help. I love to teach and I like to help. And that's when I wake up every day. That's what I get up and I do. It's like, okay, how can I get better? And that's the thing. So if my passion is teaching, I want to be the best. That's another thing too. I've been asked, like, okay, what do you see in the best players? I go, they're stubborn. The best are stubborn. It's not only just players, businessmen. It can be politicians. It can be lawyers. The best are stubborn. What I mean by that is that they have goals and they stick to it, and nothing's going to stop them from achieving that goal. And I'm a little bit stubborn in that way, in terms like, okay, how can I get better today? How can I help this player? So I will research out, and I'll go through whatever I can to help them. That's the thing, is like, because if I get better, they're going to get better. So I'm trying to get better for them. That's how I look at it. All this that I'm learning, all the education that I went through, is to help them. That's why I want to get. And I'm reading a book right now. I have right next to me. It's called "What Makes a Leader Great" by Russ Crosser. That's a book I'm just reading right now. It's so far I've read a couple of chapters. Phenomenal book.
Can you show it to us, please? There you go. Amazing. We always say, you said leaders are learners. We always say leaders are learners, but they're also readers. Leaders are readers.
Yeah. So they reading is knowledge, and I'm always reading. But but we're always learning. We're learning. We got to keep learning. The learning never stops. And so if I get better, the players are going to get better. And that's how I look at it. So I want to keep learning. And not only just as a coach, but as a husband, as a father, I fall short every day. I screw it all up in my marriage. I screw it up in my relationship with my kids. It's like, man, I want to be better. So I go seek help, and I want to show my kids that, hey, man, I don't have it all together, but I guarantee you that I'm going to do everything I can to be better. And I do. And I want my kids to see that. Not only me talk about it, but them seeing, man, my dad's always looking. He goes to conferences to be a marriage conference. I see my dad, he's reading a book on how to raise kids. I'm seeing my dad, that guy, he's trying to get better, because I don't know it all. It's like I fall short because I'm a human, and so that's why I want to preach that and teach that to not only the kids, but also to the players. Like, hey, it's okay. Be vulnerable a little bit. It's okay. Be open, because we all fall short. We all have our issues, man, but we need help in how to combat those issues.
That's that's very, very well said. We're going to clip that some way, shape, or form. That's well said. What I think about in that situation, also, you talk about we're vulnerable and we fall short. What I find in that part, sorry, I'm turning this into a me conversation here, is how long you stay in the lull, basically, right? That, to me, that's a difference about somebody who has it, mental performance, or, going to be successful. Is we're all going to dip some way, shape, or form in our lives, in some facet of our lives. But it's how long you're going to stay in the gully for. Are you going to stay in for a minute, 10 minutes, a week, a month, a year? So it's coming back. But I think, to echo what you're saying, if you can have support or help or some knowledge in different things, that you're throwing yourself more life jackets. I just made that up. We're going to fix that one up. You're giving yourself really some more life jackets or support, I guess, to be able to handle those situations and not sink for too long anyways.
Well, I have 3 men in my life that are my life jackets, that are my, they throw them out to me. And these are the ones that keep me accountable. And I given them free reign to call me out in any area, whether it be in my marriage, whether it be me raising my kids, whether it be me in my everyday life, or it be me on my coaching, whatever it is. I go ahead, and I need these guys, because, like I said, I don't have it all together. I have issues as well, but that's why I like to keep learning and keep and have someone accountable to where I can share stuff with and open up and talk about things. Because we get fogged up. Our minds get fogged up, man. We have all this clutter in our minds that we can't see. We can't think. I think straight. I mean, we always think, but we're thinking the wrong thoughts. And that's when it starts spiraling. It's like, hold on, I need someone to bring me back, have clarity. It's like, okay, hold on, Bobby, you're not thinking right here. Hold on. Like, oh man, thank you. Like, man, I didn't know. Like, you're right. You know what? Shoot, that's a good point. You know what? I got to do that. Now it's like, thank you. We need a support system.
We've always called it our accountability partners, and that's what it is, right? Somebody that you trust, that's going to tell you and maybe give you a little slap in the face to say, hey, shake it up here. You're heading down the wrong path with this, right?
Yeah. And that someone's that loves you, it's going to tell you the truth in love, because he cares about you, right. And there's a Bible verse that says, amongst the counsel of the wise, there's wisdom. Like, man, it's amongst the counsel of the wise. That's where there's wisdom. So we need counsel. We need counseling. We need support. We need that. And I'm a big believer in that. So, but again, as men, especially as athletes, we can be proudful. We can be like, have it all together because we're in the limelights. No, man, we don't. We don't have it, man. And it's okay, man. Let your guard down. Hey, let's talk about these things, man. We need help. And again, not all players want it. They don't. Not all players, they're not at that point yet. But the very few who have opened up to me, it's been a game changer in their careers.
That's outstanding.
Bobby, how have you found those 3 people in your life? How have you found them?
God put them in my life, actually. It just the way they just came about. And first of all, there was trust being built. And once you get to know them and you have a relationship with these guys, it's like, man, these guys are good. These guys they care about me. And I see their life too. It's like, I see the way that, you know what, I want to be like this guy. I can see that yeah, he falls short. He's not perfect, but man, I can see how he makes a commitment to try to do things right. And that's where, and the trust, as Mark said earlier, the trust is like men that you trust, because it's not, trust is huge. Once you trust someone, okay, now you can open up with them. But we need that. We need men in our lives that can help us, that are there, that they care about us. That, like, you know, to me, it's like I have 3 guys, but really there's one guy out of those 3. There's one that I'm really close to, and this is the guy that we meet once a week over the phone, once a week for the last 10, probably 15 years almost now, that we meet once a week. You know, we live in different states, but we meet once a week. And hey, how you doing? And he asks me the tough questions. It can be anything, any struggles. Like, hey, how are you doing with this? How are you doing with that? I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? Nah, not too well. And I mean, I can lie to him. It's true. It's like I can lie to him because, oh man, I don't want to hear it today. You know, oh no, I'm all right. You know, but it's like we have that strong relation where I'm going, you know what? Can you please pray for me because I'm struggling with this, man. Last couple of days I've been feeling this okay, and man, I'm telling you, when I open up and I confess those things, it's like I get freed up. I'm like, man, now I feel like this is good. It's like, yeah, I just let a weight off my shoulder. And that's where we try as mental performance. We try to help people with that, just to get that load off. And because we don't know how to do it. That's why I always believe, go get help. You know what? It's worth the money. And you know, well, we don't have the money to do it. Okay, maybe there's a plan financially that person can help you with, but go get help. It's well worth it. It's worth it. I tell people that you have no idea how much worth it is to go seek mental help.
You said something really important there about like being open and honest, and we talk about being self-aware of like, hey, I'm not in a good spot right now. Like that to me is step number 1, is being aware of your certain situation that you're in, that you aren't right or you're not in a good spot mentally. And it doesn't have to be like super low,
Right.
But it just has to be like, hey, I might have to bounce this off somebody. And self-aware and self-honest are 2 different things, and being on and then being able to share that with somebody. And when you talk about seeking help, it could just be a friend, another man that you want to go and have a cup of coffee with, or like you say, a weekly phone call. That can go a long way to getting you on the right track and helping you with this game, like and game of life, really, right? It's basically what it is. So I think that's an important aspect of people, that we have to watch out for one another and be there and be willing to be there for one another. And sometimes it's just about, I got to remind myself, shut up and listen. This person might not necessarily need the advice, but it's just about to be there and then offer that ear for them to speak out.
That's a great point you just made. It's listening, and that's what I try to do. I'm there and I'm just listening, because when I listen is I'm getting to know them. I get to know their heart. When I want to give an answer to everything, I'm not listening to them, and I'm not listening to their heart. Now I'm giving them an opinion to show them what I know, listening to what they need. You know, it's like that's where pride comes in. It's like, okay, I want to show them what I know because I studied all this. And no, it's like sometimes they just want to vent, and I don't say a word, and then they give me, hey, thank you for listening, and I never give them advice. And now it's like, by them venting, all of a sudden they start hitting again. It's like, oh my gosh, like, because they just got that weight off of them. You know, I never gave them advice. And there's a book called, this was years ago I read. It's called How to Speak So People Can Listen, and How to Listen So People Can Speak. Great book. And I learned there was a little dialogue that the author said he had with the client. And he says, so client comes in and says, yeah, you know, well, I'm here because I have these issues, blah, blah. So here you got the counselors just there listening to the guy. He goes, yeah, you know, my wife, this and that, blah, 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 and this and that, you know, yeah, this. But you know what? I did this, I did that. And the guy just kept going. The author's going, as I'm listening to this guy, I never said a word. He never let me say a word. All he did was talk the whole time. He goes, and then after about 10, 15 minutes of him just talking, the conversation, and the author said, I never said a word. The conversation switched, and the guy says, but you know what? I also have screwed up because, I treated her this way. And yeah, you know what? I think what I'm going to do now, right now I'm going to go home. I'm going to buy her some flowers. I'm going to apologize to her. And yeah, that's what I'm going to do. You know what? Thank you, man. Thank you a lot for the session. I'm going to get going. The guy never said a word. He goes, okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Let me know how it went. But that's the thing. It's like by talking it, let them speak. And before you know it, it's like we're talking to our own selves, and it's like we just got it out. We just wanted to speak and vent. Yeah. And that's all they needed. Now they've got the weight off of them. And now they can go play. Now they can go about their business, and they're thinking more clear than they were before.
Bobby, any chance you know the author of that book?
I can't remember. I can't remember how. But the author of that.
We'll go to Google. We'll find it.
I've had people come into my office and do that sometimes. They come in and they're upset about something, either a colleague or even a student or an athlete. Like they'll come into my office and the door slams, and then they sit on the comfy chair beside my desk. And then they're like, Mess, like, I got to tell you this. And then blah, 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 blah. 15 minutes later, I'm nodding. I'm like, oh, wow. And they get up. Oh, I feel really good now. And then they go about their day, right? And it's just like, I said nothing. And I think that's important that my daughter says it right. Sometimes, Dad, you got to know she has a degree in philosophy. So she says to me, you have to know when somebody's coming to you for advice or they're coming to you and they need and you're going to be a sponge. You have to recognize that difference. And that's a learned skill, because as coaches and as teachers, because you're a teacher at the end of the day, Bobby, you're a teacher. You want to show people, yeah, I know stuff, but you have to know when they want to know your stuff. And I think that's a very important skill. That's about us as leaders being self-aware as well, right?
And yeah, it's self-awareness. And it's true. That's right now, as you're speaking, I'm thinking about, my marriage and my relationship with my wife. And I mean, I praise God for my wife. She's an incredible woman. I mean, it's for her to be with me all these years, trying to chase a dream, and in baseball, which I'm away from home, she has done a phenomenal job. She's been probably the biggest support system for me. It's been incredible. So, but we talk about that, like, we got to a point where, okay, you want me just to listen, or do you want advice? Whenever, like, and I'll tell her, just listen right now. Okay. And she won't say a word, and vice versa. Like, sweetheart, do you want me to give you advice, or do you just want me to, no, I just want to vent. Like, okay. Because right away, our first instinct is to help. And we're not listening. We're not listening to them. We're more thinking, what am I going to say right here? And then we don't listen. And sometimes people just want to vent. That's all they want. They just want to vent. They want someone that they can let it out and know that they're not going to be judged when they do tell you all the stuff. And that's the thing. You don't want to be judged. That's where the confidence comes. I know this person is not going to judge me. This person is just going to listen to me and have some empathy and have towards me, because we just want to be heard. There's two things that men need and want, and that's to be respected and to be heard. That is it. As men, those are the two things that we need: to be respected and be heard. And I'm going to hear these guys out.
We could go with this. Sounds like a whole other show with you, Coach. This is an amazing conversation, but there is something, and I want to be conscious of your time. But there's something I've been wanting to ask. And yes, you're a World Series champion. So we've gotten into this. We talked about mental performance, but you've won a World Series. So let's go back to the World Series here for a second. But because it is a little bit related to what we've been talking about. And this is something that I ask everybody. We've had Olympic champions on our show, and we ask, what is... I'm trying to figure out how to rephrase this. You had talent. We know that your Braves were talented enough in 2021 to win a World Series. But if you, Bobby, wrote a book about all the things that didn't relate to baseball, that were part of that team, the outside the line stuff, the character, what would it be? What were those ingredients that led to a World Series championship for the Braves last year?
One word: perseverance. If I can describe it, we lost some of our top players. We lost Acuna, season-ending injury. We lost Osuna to injury as well. We lost them. Our catcher, Travis Darnell, we lost him for like almost the whole season. He didn't come to the last part of the season because he had surgery in a play at the plate. He messed up his thumb. It was, if it's one thing that I can say, is perseverance. We persevered. And it was a story of perseverance because everything would go wrong. I mean, we're in the playoffs and in the World Series, and game one, our starting pitcher line drive off his leg, breaks his leg, out for the remainder of the World Series. And I'm going, now what? It's like little things like that. It just seemed like there was one injury after another, just losing these top players. I mean, really good, impactful players. And it's like, how are we going to do this? And our GM did a great job of getting the pieces that we needed to fill those roles. And the guys that came in were just outstanding.
You're Canadian GM, right? You're Canadian.
Yes,
GM.
Alex. Yes,
he's a Canadian.
Exactly. Yes, he is.
He's a Canadian.
Yes, he is. And he did a phenomenal job. But it was perseverance, and that's how I can describe it. That's how I can describe the season. It was just a season of perseverance because, I mean, no one gave us a chance either. We were out of the 10 teams that made the postseason in the major leagues last year, we were ranked 10th. We had the worst record of the 10 teams, and we ended up winning it all. And again, it's just that what we were built off of, and just how we persevered. And to me, I'm a big believer in perseverance because that's what strengthens you. Perseverance is what strengthens us.
You would have had to have, under those circumstances, and JG and I have we're our foundation for everything that we do. We have 9 elements: character, commitment and communication, effort, excellence, and emotion. Prepare, perform, and persist. And that persistence and perseverance doesn't happen without leadership, right? And to me, watching, and I knew you guys were low ranked going into the postseason, but you won it all. So to me, that's an indicator of leadership, character, and a lot of those elements that we use. The people in the locker room must have stepped up after you lost some of those players to injuries. There must have been those athletes that provided huge leadership and to fill in those gaps, correct?
Absolutely. They stepped up. You need those. You need guys that you didn't expect that big of an impact. Those are the guys that made big impact, and we need everyone to step up. That's the thing. It's guys stepped up. You're right. And again, they played with that. They played with like, okay, let's go. We're out to prove something here. People didn't give us the time of day. I mean, no one gave us a shot. No one, and that's like, cool. We want to be that. We want to be the underdogs. It's okay. And that's like a chip on our shoulder, which we went into the postseason. And I'm telling you, I said, I made a comment in the cage one time. This is in September, and I said, if we make the playoffs, I go, watch out for us. I said that, and not only me, but there's other people who said the same things. Watch, is if we make the postseason, teams better watch out. No one's going to want to open up with us because we knew they're going to have to open up with us. We're the last seeded team, and we end up winning it all. It's just one of those things where you have that mindset and you have that perseverance, you have that heart. We're like, well, this is go lay it all on the field and let's go kick some butt today.
And this year you were an all-star. Can you talk to us a little bit about that experience? Because to me, that's like every boy's dream. And what a stage in LA. The other thing too, sorry, before I jump into that, it seems like you've had the opportunity. Your family's been, the Braves seemed like a first-class organization. It looked like your family was a part of like the ring ceremony. Like it seemed like such a great thing. And I saw that you had pictures of your family at the all-star game. What a great opportunity to roll into your family with this. But can you talk to us a little bit about the all-star experience?
Phenomenal. It's, first of all, it's, you win a World Series, first time really officially as a coach in the major leagues, and you win a World Series. And then we participate in the All-Star game and in Los Angeles, where I grew up. I was born and raised there. What memories that brought back, and it was emotional for me because my dad passed away in March, and And so when I go back to LA, it was still raw, him passing, and I just remember my dad taking me as a little kid to Dodger games, and all that. I was just taking it in. So it was emotional for me. But to be on that stage at Dodger Stadium where I grew up, and all of a sudden I'm in an All-Star game there, I go, God, you're great. God's great. I go, this is incredible. I go, Lord, look where you have me. I'm like, it's a dream that, like you said, I'm living a dream, and it's like a little kid. It made me feel like a kid, and to have my kids there, that to me, family. Number one is God, then it's my family, and then it's this job, and it's always been that order. And wherever I go, whatever organization I've been with, that's how I live my life by. And if it's not that order, I don't want to be working for an organization that way, because my family is going to be way more important than this game. And I don't care what people say, it's always going to be that way. No, this game and my coaching is not going to take over my family. It's not. And so with that said, to share it with my family, to share with my wife and my kids was incredible. Just to see them on the field, my kids at the home run derby, they were like just in awe, bringing them on the field, and my wife and my daughter, taking pictures on the field, before the game. And it's so cool that you can just share it with them. And like, again, I'm blessed beyond measure. That's all I can say. Like I said, we're playing a kid's game, and it's a dream. It's like, this is what you dream of. It's like, I'm actually living this thing. It's like, I thank God for it. That's all I can say. It's like, man, this is incredible. I can't believe this is happening. But we actually, quite a few of us felt that way.
Wow. You seem like one of the conversations we've had as well with Coach Kurt Hines, who's a football coach in Coronado, California. Some coaches will trade family for rings, but for many of us, we wouldn't trade our family for rings. And you seem like the person, like, yeah, you're fortunate enough to win a World Series, but you wouldn't trade that World Series ring for your beautiful family. I would bet on that.
No, because obviously, family's family. But as I've said this before, when we're talking about performance psychology, it's about people. So if coaching is about people, so if we're making it about people, it's not about the ring, it's about the person. Because I tell you what, we're going to impact more. A coach, Billy Graham has a quote. It says, a coach will impact more people in 1 year than the average person does in a lifetime. And it's true. It's like a coach, we can impact more people than actually our parents did. We can impact more people than our teachers did. It's like, or friends, we impact more people as coaches. So I take that to heart. And because it's not about the ring. The ring is great. That's like a byproduct of doing things well. But it's about the impact you're going to make in these people's lives. It's going to be for eternity, because I'm coaching husbands. I'm coaching fathers. I'm coaching these people, and they're going to be a husband and a father someday. So it's like, what am I going to impart in them? Because this game's going to be gone quickly. Now what? These still have a long life left. Well, how are they going to live their life? How can I impact these people? That's what, like I said, when we go, okay, what's my why? Why I do something? It's because I want to impact lives. And that's why I do it. And that's my perspective. When I show up, that's my perspective.
That's outstanding. You got it together, Coach, which is what we love to hear and see in our show. So as we're being conscious of time here, but one of the things that we do with our show weekly is we ask our guests to kind of share with our listeners their best piece of advice, whether it be coaching, leadership, mental performance. If there's one thing, one resource, one last bit of advice that you want people to carry through with them for their week on their commute to work or their day-to-day lives, what would you like to share with our listeners before we close up here?
Live with a purpose. Like you said, what's your why? To me, it's like, what's the purpose? Why am I here? Why did God create me? We all have a purpose. We're not here just on accident. We're not here just to take up space. And we're all here to impact lives. I'm a believer in that. So it's like, live your life with a purpose. Okay, why do I get up? What's the reason why I got up this morning? What's the reason why I'm on this podcast? What's the reason why I accepted to be on this podcast? What's the reason why I'm reading this book? What's the reason why I'm watching TV? I mean, what is it? What's the reason why I'm alive today? It's not just to exist. And to me, live with a purpose. What is your purpose for why you're here on earth? And again, like I said, I'm a God-fearing man that my purpose is what God has for me. So it's like I'm trying to honor him, and I'm trying just to impact his kingdom. And this is what I try to do every single day. So I know what my purpose is. And that's how I live it. Because until you don't have that purpose, then life's not going to have any meaning. You know, it's like, it's not. It's like, why am I here? Then there's no meaning in it. Everything I do has a meaning, which is why I get excited about it. There's a purpose why I woke up today. Now let's go fulfill that purpose.
Dominate the day.
Yeah, I like
Right?
that. I like what you say, dominate the day. I love
Dominate the day. Oh, well, that's very well done, Coach. And I love that we are giving our listeners. So, you know, if we're watching the Braves on TV, and, you know, I want listeners and our audience to understand there's so much more to what's going on to that game between the lines of what we see on TV and what's going on in the preparation for the players, the coaches, their families, all of this. It's a big thing, and I think it's important that we share that message, that there's so much more to the game than just throwing and catching and hitting. It's just such a small percentage of the whole overall big picture. We didn't really talk about winning and losing today. We talked about what gets you to become successful as a human being first, and then as an athlete, which is what I love. Coach LaRock, anything else you'd like to ask for Coach Bobby?
Yeah, we'll need you back for another episode because there's so many more things I want to dive into. And honestly, not even baseball. Like, we got into some stuff there in a few rabbit holes that I'd like to keep going into. Yeah, I just want to be cognizant of your time. I know you guys are on the road and you got things to do, and get back in the hunt. You're in the hunt, but keep pushing. So I appreciate your time, Bobby. This is amazing.
No, thank you, guys. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to come on again. That'll be great.
We always say, you know, better today than yesterday, better tomorrow than today. And I feel like when we have conversations like this is our 1% better. This is motivating me to go out and be a better husband, a better father, a better coach, a better teacher, having the opportunity to speak with people such as yourselves who are doing it at a great level. It's real, and I love it, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate what you're doing for people, not just winning world championships, but just being a good father and a good husband and a great coach, which is amazing. Well, that does it for this episode of Benchmarked. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
Keep crushing it.
Right on.